Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Daily English Fluent Podcast. I am Jake, and today I am very happy to practice English with you. In today's podcast, we are going to talk about an experience that can feel exciting, important, and sometimes a little scary. We are going to learn how to talk about your first interview in English. Maybe you have your first job interview soon. Maybe you already had your first interview and you want to tell someone about it. Or maybe you simply want to prepare for the future. Whatever your situation is, this lesson will help you use simple and natural English to talk about interviews with more confidence. For many English learners, the word interview can make them nervous. You imagine sitting in a room with another person. That person asks you questions. You need to understand the questions, think about your answers, and speak clearly. And maybe you need to do all of this in English. That can feel difficult. Maybe you think, what if I do not understand the question? What if I forget an English word? What if I make a grammar mistake? What if I become nervous and my mind goes completely blank? These feelings are very normal. Your first interview does not need to be perfect. You do not need perfect English. You need to understand some common questions, prepare simple answers, and communicate clearly. So first, let's learn some basic interview vocabulary. An interview is a conversation where someone asks you questions to learn more about you. A job interview is usually a conversation between a person who wants a job and someone from a company or organization. The person asking the questions is called the interviewer. The person who wants the job is called the candidate. For example, you can say, "The interviewer asked me about my experience." Or you can say, "There were 3 candidates waiting for an interview." Another important word is position. A position means a job or role in a company. You might say, "I applied for a sales position," or "I interviewed for a customer service position." To apply for a job means to tell a company that you are interested in working there. Usually, you send your CV or resume and some information about yourself. Let's imagine a simple situation. A young man named Leo is looking for his first job. He sees an advertisement for a job in a hotel. The hotel needs someone to work at the front desk. Leo likes talking to people, and he thinks the position could be good for him. So he applies for the job. A few days later, he receives an email. The email says, "Hello, Leo. Thank you for your application. We would like to invite you for an interview on Monday at 10 a.m. Leo reads the email twice. At first, he feels excited. He thinks, "Great, they want to meet me." Then, about 5 seconds later, he starts to feel nervous. He thinks, "Oh no, an interview. What are they going to ask me? What should I say? What should I wear? What if my English is not good enough?" Maybe you know this feeling. Something good happens, but your excitement quickly becomes worry. Leo decides to prepare. And this is our first important lesson. Preparation can make you feel much calmer. You do not need to memorize 100 answers. You do not need to learn difficult business vocabulary. For a first interview, start with a few common questions. One very common question is, "Can you tell me about yourself?" We practiced this kind of question before. In an interview, your answer should focus more on your studies, skills, experience, and interest in the job. Leo could say, "Sure, my name is Leo. I recently finished school and I am looking for my first full-time job. I'm friendly, responsible, and I enjoy working with people. I'm interested in this position because I would like to learn more about customer service." Notice something important here. Leo does not say, "I have no experience. I have never worked before. I don't know very much." Those sentences sound negative. Instead, he talks about what he can offer. He says he is friendly and responsible. He says he enjoys working with people. He explains why he is interested in the position. This is a useful idea when you have your first interview. Maybe you do not have much work experience yet, but you still have useful qualities. Maybe you are patient. Maybe you are organized. Maybe you learn quickly. Maybe you are good at talking with people. Maybe you are reliable. Reliable means people can trust you to do what you say you will do. You can say, "I am a reliable person." You can also say, "I am a fast learner." A fast learner is someone who can understand and learn new things quickly. Now imagine that a friend asks Leo, "Are you ready for your interview?" Leo might answer, "I think so. I am a little nervous because it is my first interview, but I have prepared some answers." This is a very natural sentence. Listen again. I am a little nervous because it is my first interview, but I have prepared some answers. You can use this sentence in your own life. Maybe your interview is tomorrow. You can say, "I have an interview tomorrow and I am a little nervous." Maybe the interview already happened. You can say, "I had my first interview yesterday." Notice the difference. I have an interview tomorrow. This means the interview is in the future. I had an interview yesterday. This means the interview is finished. Now let's imagine the morning of Leo's interview. Leo wakes up early. He does not want to be late. He takes a shower, gets dressed, eats a small breakfast, and checks the address again. He chooses clean, simple clothes because he wants to look professional. Before he leaves home, he practices his introduction one more time. "Hello, my name is Leo. It is nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me." This is simple English, but it is excellent English for an interview. When Leo arrives at the hotel, he walks to the front desk and says, "Hello, my name is Leo Martin. I am here for an interview at 10 o'clock. The receptionist smiles and says, "Of course, please take a seat." Leo sits down. His hands feel a little cold. His heart is beating faster than usual. He looks around the hotel and quietly reminds himself, "Speak slowly, listen carefully. I do not need to be perfect." A few minutes later, a woman walks toward him and smiles. "Leo?" He stands up. "Yes, that's me." She says, "Hello, Leo. I'm Sarah. I'll be interviewing you today." Leo smiles and says, "Hello, Sarah. It's nice to meet you." And with those simple words, his first interview begins. Sarah invites Leo into a small office. They sit down and she says, "Thank you for coming today." Leo smiles and says, "Thank you for inviting me." This is a useful sentence for an interview. It is polite, simple, and natural. Sarah begins with a common question. "Can you tell me a little about yourself?" Leo has practiced this question, so he does not panic. He says, "Sure, I recently finished school and I am looking for my first full-time job. I am friendly, responsible, and I enjoy working with people. I am interested in customer service because I like helping people." Sarah smiles and writes something in her notebook. Leo feels a little better. The first question is finished and his answer was clear. Then Sarah asks, "Why do you want to work here?" This is another very common interview question. When someone asks this question, they want to know why you are interested in the company or the position. You do not need a long answer. You can say, "I want to work here because I enjoy helping people, and I think this position is a good opportunity to learn new skills." Or you can say, "I am interested in this job because I would like to gain experience and grow professionally." For beginners, an even simpler answer is fine. "I am interested in this job because I like working with people and I want to learn." Leo says, "I want to work here because I enjoy meeting people. I also want to improve my customer service skills and gain experience. Very good. Now, Sarah asks, what are your strengths? The word strengths means things you are good at or positive qualities you have. Maybe your strengths are communication, patience, organization, teamwork, or learning quickly. Leo thinks for a moment and says, I am patient, friendly, and responsible. I also learn quickly. Notice that he does not try to give 10 strengths. 3 or 4 are enough. You can say, I am organized and hardworking. You can say, I am good at communicating with people. You can say, I stay calm when there is a problem. You can say, I work well in a team. Now imagine the interviewer asks you a question that you do not completely understand. This happens to Leo. Sarah asks him, how would you handle a difficult customer? Leo understands the word difficult customer, but he is not completely sure about the word handle. For 1 second, he feels nervous. But instead of guessing, he politely says, sorry, could you repeat the question, please? Sarah repeats the question more slowly. Leo understands it now. This is important. If you do not understand a question, asking the interviewer to repeat it is okay. You can say, could you repeat that, please? Or, sorry, could you say that again? You can also say, could you explain what you mean, please? These sentences are useful because an interview is not a test of perfect listening. Clear communication is more important. Leo answers, if a customer was unhappy, I would stay calm and listen carefully. I would try to understand the problem and help them. Sarah says, good. Now Leo feels more confident. He realizes something important. The interviewer is not trying to scare him. She simply wants to learn how he thinks and communicates. Then Sarah asks Leo another question. Do you have any work experience? This question can be difficult when it is your first job. Leo could simply say no, but that answer is too short. Instead, he says, I do not have much professional experience yet, but I helped at school events and worked with different people. I am also a fast learner, and I am ready to learn. The word yet is useful again. I do not have much experience yet. It means you do not have much experience now, but you expect this to change. This sounds much more positive than saying, I have no experience. If you are a student, you can talk about school projects. If you helped your family, volunteered somewhere, joined a club, or organized an event, you may be able to talk about those experiences too. For example, I have not had a full-time job yet, but I volunteered at a local event last summer. Or, this would be my first job, but I am responsible and ready to learn. Sarah asks Leo another question. Where do you see yourself in the future? Leo does not have his whole future planned, and that's okay. He says, I would like to gain experience, improve my skills, and become more confident in customer service. Simple, clear, positive. Now, let's imagine that you are telling a friend about an interview after it happened. Your friend asks, how was your interview? You can say, it went well. This means you think the interview was successful. You can say, it went better than I expected. This is useful when you were very nervous before the interview, but the experience was easier than you imagined. Maybe it was difficult. You can say, "It was a little difficult, but I did my best." Or you could say, "I was nervous at first, but I became more comfortable after a few minutes." Listen to that sentence again. I was nervous at first, but I became more comfortable after a few minutes. This is a very natural way to describe your first interview. You can also explain what the interviewer asked you. The interviewer asked me about my experience. She asked me why I wanted the job. He asked me about my strengths. They asked me how I would deal with customers. Then your friend may ask, "Did you answer all the questions?" You can say, "Yes, I answered all of them, but I needed some time to think." Or maybe you made a mistake. You can say, "I forgot one word, but I continued speaking." That's important. One forgotten word does not destroy an interview. One grammar mistake does not destroy an interview. If you make a small mistake, continue speaking. At the end of Leo's interview, Sarah closes her notebook and says, "Those are all my questions. Do you have any questions for me?" Leo knows this question is important because he prepared for it. When Sarah asks, "Do you have any questions for me?" Leo does not say no. Instead, he asks a simple question. "Yes, could you tell me more about a typical day in this position?" This is a great interview question. It shows Leo is interested in the job. You can also ask, "What would my main responsibilities be?" Responsibilities are the things you need to do in a job. You can ask, "What kind of training do you provide?" Or you can ask, "What is the next step in the interview process?" You do not need to ask many questions. 2 good questions can be enough. Sarah answers Leo's question and explains what a normal day looks like at the hotel. Leo listens carefully. Then Sarah says, "Thank you for coming, Leo. We will contact you soon." Leo smiles and says, "Thank you for your time. It was nice meeting you." He leaves the office and walks outside. For the first time that morning, he feels relaxed. His interview was not perfect. He paused a few times. He asked Sarah to repeat one question. He probably made 1 or 2 small English mistakes. But he did it. He completed his first interview in English. Later, Leo meets his friend Daniel. Daniel asks, "So, how did your interview go?" Leo says, "It went pretty well. I was really nervous at first, but I felt more confident after the first few questions." Daniel asks, "What did they ask you?" Leo says, "They asked me to talk about myself, why I wanted the job, my strengths, and how I would help a difficult customer." Was it hard? Some questions were a little difficult. I didn't understand one question at first, so I asked the interviewer to repeat it. That's completely fine. Do you think you'll get the job? Leo laughs and says, "I don't know, but I did my best." This short conversation gives us many useful phrases for talking about an interview. You can say, "My interview went well." You can say, "I was nervous at first." You can say, "The interviewer was friendly." You can say, "They asked me several questions." You can say, "I needed a little time to think." You can say, "I did my best." And if you are waiting for the result, you can say, "They said they would contact me soon." Now let's practice a complete example. Imagine someone asks you, "How was your first interview?" You can answer, "My first interview was last week. I was very nervous before it started, but the interviewer was friendly. She asked me about myself, my skills, and why I wanted the job. I answered most of the questions well. One question was difficult, so I asked her to repeat it. After a few minutes, I felt more relaxed. I think the interview went well, and I was happy that I did my best. This is a strong answer for an English learner. It has a clear beginning, middle, and end. Now let's make it even simpler. My first interview was yesterday. I was nervous at first. The interviewer asked me about my experience and my strengths. I answered the questions slowly and clearly. The interview went better than I expected. I felt very happy afterward. You can change these sentences to match your own experience. Now there is one important thing I want you to remember about interviews. Confidence does not mean having an answer immediately. Sometimes the interviewer asks a question and you need a few seconds to think. That is okay. You can say, "That's a good question. Let me think for a moment." This gives you a little time. You can also say, "I would say my biggest strength is..." This is a natural way to begin while you organize your thoughts. Do not think that silence for 2 seconds means failure. A short pause can actually make you sound calm and thoughtful. Also, do not try to memorize every answer word for word. If you memorize everything exactly, one forgotten word can make you feel lost. Instead, remember the main idea. For example, for the question, "Why do you want this job?" remember 3 ideas: people, experience, growth. Then you can say, "I enjoy working with people. I want to gain experience, and I think this job will help me grow." Simple ideas are easier to remember. Here is a useful practice method before your first interview. First, choose 5 common questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? What are your strengths? Do you have any experience? Why should we hire you? Write a short answer for each question. Use simple English. Then read your answers aloud. After that, close your notebook and answer without reading. Do not worry if your answer changes a little. That is good. You are practicing real speaking, not memorizing a speech. You can also record yourself on your phone. Listen to your pronunciation. Ask yourself, "Am I speaking too fast? Are my sentences clear? Do I sound calm?" Improve one small thing each time. Now let's review. Before an interview, prepare common questions and simple answers. During the interview, listen carefully and speak slowly. If you do not understand something, politely ask the interviewer to repeat it. If you need time to think, take a short pause. When you talk about the interview afterward, you can explain how you felt, what questions they asked, what was difficult, and what went well. And remember, your first interview is also practice. Even if you do not get the job, you gain experience. The second interview may feel easier. The third may feel even more natural. Every time you speak English in a real situation, you are training your brain. You are learning to listen, think, and answer more quickly. So, if you have your first interview soon, prepare your ideas, practice your answers, and believe that simple English can be powerful. You do not need perfect grammar. You do not need difficult vocabulary. You need clear ideas, useful sentences, and the courage to speak. Thank you for listening to Daily English Fluent Podcast. I am Jake, and I am very happy you practiced English with me today. Keep listening, keep practicing, keep speaking, even when you feel nervous. Every conversation gives you more experience, and every small step can make you more confident. See you in the next episode.